Garcia, voice of the people. Z. Garcia, voice of the people.
Dum, 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 dum. Here we go, my top 10 games of all time. I'm so excited I'm singing, people. Last time I did this was in 2014. There are 2 brand new games in this list in my top 10. 2 games that were not on my top anything before. And I'm very excited about that. Now, there's a decent amount of stability here in my top 10. Certainly more than in my 11 through 20. But still, I guess that's what it means to be a personal classic, you know? That's how I think most people feel. So, let's kick it off right away with my number 10. I'm so excited. My number 10 was my number 8 last time, and this is 7 Wonders. 7 Wonders is a game adored by many, many people, and I think Antoine Boza is a brilliant man and a brilliant designer. He is, I'm pretty sure, my number 2 designer. My number 1 being Bruno Catala, which is no secret, because I tend to like most of his games. But 7 Wonders was able to give you a Civ game, and I use that term loosely, I know. A game that played with up to 7 people, a game that played with the same, in the same amount of time, no matter how many people were playing. It gave you gorgeous artwork, it gave you lots of tactics, it gave you a really cool drafting mechanism that I think put drafting kind of back on the map. There were drafting games before that, but the mechanism certainly picked up steam after 7 Wonders, you know. And it's given us a bunch of expansions, all of which are pretty sweet. The last one, Babel expansion, the last big one, really, I mean, turning that game on its ear a little bit in a great way. You know, I still prefer the Leaders expansion, which was the first one, but they're all fantastic. And so 7 Wonders, if you have not played it, and you like card games at all, you gotta try this game. What are you doing? Go play it. Alright, my number 9 is one of the new games. And who was I just talking about? Catala. Ding, ding, ding. My number 9 is 5 Tribes. I remember last time I did this, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm misremembering, I had just wrapped up doing my top 100 when I played 5 Tribes for the first time. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. And the more I've played it, the more it just grows on me. And the richer the tactics are in it, and the cooler it feels when you have an amazing turn that you were able to puzzle out of this, you know, contraption. And I love that. I love seeing somebody else have a great turn in this game. I don't even care if I'm the one doing it. I'm like, you pulled off an amazing move. And I love games that let me do that. This game also had an expansion, and it also really, and I didn't think it could, but it also really made the game bigger and chunkier and more tactically rich and interesting without adding a lot of time, without adding a lot of complexity. So, 5 Tribes, just unbelievable Euro game about grabbing up points in clever ways and moving your little people around, kind of like Mancala style, where you grab up people and then you drop them off, and where you end up is what you trigger, what you get. But you gotta be real careful with it. I know some people out there say that the game is too analysis paralysis prone, but I tend to disagree with that. I think at the beginning, most moves, there's a lot of moves on the table, but most moves are going to give you about the same number of points. So it's not that big a deal. And then near the end of the game, some moves are clearly better than other moves, but there's also fewer of them on the table to process. So, I don't know. I don't feel that way anyway. My number 9, 5 Tribes. My number 8 was my number 12 last time, Imperial Settlers. And ever since Imperial Settlers came out, I remember I played it for the very first time at Dice Tower Con 2 years ago, I guess it was. Or a year ago? I don't know, 2 years, yeah. And just unbelievably exciting how the designer was able to take 51st State and clean it up. That was a big one. That was the main thing, where the original was very kind of hard to teach and everything was icons and everything was sort of crunchy. This one, you could just read what the card did. And everything was sort of cute. And the main new innovation was factions. You could choose what faction you were. You had your own deck of cards. You drew from that one deck of cards no one else could have access to. And it was just really exciting game. I tend to not go for the real crunchy, heavy, I guess the word of the day is crunchy, by the way. Real heavy Euro style games with lots of, I'll take a purple cube and a green cube and then turn those in for a yellow cube, which I then turn in for a shoot me cube, right? Because I don't tend to like that, cube pushing stuff. But this game could be seen as that, yet it does it for me. I think it's the cards, I think it's the stringing together of an interesting turn. And there might be some conflict on top of that. So, Imperial Settlers, my number 8. My number 7 is the other new game to the list. And I think this one probably comes as no surprise if you know me or have watched us playing on the Dice Tower, and this is Pandemic Legacy. Now, Pandemic Legacy, again, my number 7. And a lot of people, from what I read online, as I was doing this list, I heard rumblings of some people saying, oh, this is going to be his new number 1. Because I really like Pandemic, the original Pandemic. And I like it. I like this a lot. Obviously, it's my number 7 favorite game ever. But I also have to understand that it's a game that once I'm done playing, I am done playing. I cannot keep replaying it like I can Pandemic, or Seven Wonders, or Five Tribes, or Imperial Solid. None of these games. And so it takes a little bit of a hit for me because of that. Is the experience worthwhile? Absolutely. If you have not played, and you like cooperative games, you like a good story, any of these things, you should play it. But I also understand that it's a strange beast that you can only play so many times and then you're done, So that's why it's 7. It quite possibly could be higher if I could continue playing. But alas, you cannot. My number 6 was my number 40 last time. This is a huge jump. All of the other games are, from here on out, every game was in my top 10 before. So not a whole lot of surprises coming up. This was my 40. But 2 things. I've kept playing it. And when I say playing it, I mean I have played a bunch of this game. I've racked up the plays to serious, digits. And they came out with a new version of this game. A 2nd edition that gave you more content in the box. This is Onirim. A tiny little game that's for 1 player or 2. But I've mostly played 1 player. And it's this really simple, light card game. It's, you are playing cards, trying to escape from this weird dream you're having, but these nightmares show up, and if they do, then they cause some havoc, and you're trying to open these 8 doors, and once you've got that before the deck runs out, boom, you win. If not, you lose. Sounds simple. It is simple. It's quick. But I just love it. I don't think it's been a long time since I played this game once in a sitting. Because I will play and shuffle up and play, and then shuffle up some more and play again. And I just keep coming back to it. And the 2nd version gave us a whole bunch of expansions in the new box. And they're all pretty good. I'm really thrilled with the new version of this. So, if you're a solitaire gamer, go check out Onirim. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. My number 5 was my number 5 last time. This is Ghost Stories. Gorgeous co-op game. Difficult, clever, interesting decisions. It's Euro style meets dice rolling. It's from Antoine Boza also. That man just knows how to put a game together, and he's really good at co-ops as well. This one has that gorgeous artwork also from Piero, and for me, this is one of those pillars of cooperative gaming, which is, as I've said before, my favorite style of game. Co-ops are my favorite. And this one just knocks it out of the park. Everything it does right. The only thing I would say is a little is it does not scale quite as well as I would want it to. You really want to play with 4. But, I mean, you can play with other numbers. But it really does play best with 4. If you've got 4 players and you like co-ops and you like difficult co-ops, you dig into this thing, you're going to have a lot of fun trying to figure out what is the right move, which again is a very analytical thing, but also just walking up to a ghost and smacking it in the face and rolling some dice and, you know, getting into the theme of it. So it bridges that gap between the theme and the mechanisms, and it gives you both in a very strong way. That was my number 5, Ghost Stories. My number 4 was my number 6 last time, and this is Blue Moon, which is now known as Blue Moon Legends. This is one of my 2 most played games ever. We'll get to the other one in just a little bit. And Blue Moon Legends, which is the reprint of Blue Moon, I think it's still available. The beauty of it is that it took everything Blue Moon that had come out before and it put it in one box. Boom, here's everything. Now, there were some compromises because of that. The cards were no longer the big, gorgeous tarot-sized cards. They were just regular-sized cards. So yes, you lost a little bit of the artwork. But the dragons in the new one are gorgeous compared to the old one. And everything is in the box. Everything they ever made. All the promo cards. Everything. The gems for scoring multiple games. You know, all that stuff. And so, as a 2-player game, I think it's fantastic. I've enjoyed it so much. Like I said, one of my 2 most played games ever. It's a Reiner Knizia classic, and it does not feel like a Reiner Knizia because he was able to throw a lot of text and powers and interesting sort of complications on top of a pretty simple framework, which is tug of war, kind of. You know, I combat you with a number, you got to throw that number back at me, at least that number. And if you come back at me, I throw you a 6, you come back with an 8, then I got to throw back an 8 at least. And this is, again, I'm giving you a real basic idea there. There's a lot of cards and different things you can do, but I've liked this game from the very first time I played it, and boy, have I played it. My number 3 was my number 4 last time, and this is Cosmic Encounter. Cosmic Encounter is funny. The first time I played Cosmic Encounter, or I attempted to play, I should say, I wasn't really feeling it. And it almost never happened. Certainly does not happen anymore. I was a young and foolish gamer then. But I tried to figure this game out, and it was so weird and different from anything I had played then. I remember I bought a copy at a Toys R Us, and it was the Avalon Hill version, which I now know it's not a very good version. But I tried to play it back then, and it just... I felt like, ooh, man, I made a mistake buying this game. But then, as I figured it out, as I played with other people that did know how to play Cosmic, as the years went by, I started to fall in love with it, and now, one of my favorite games. Every game is different. Every game has one laugh out loud moment at least. Every game has one moment of high treason and betrayal in it at least. There's like a roller coaster of emotions built into Cosmic Encounter, and it almost always pays off. You'll have a dud game every now and then, but almost always you're going to get a cool combination of aliens with interesting personalities, and a lot of the game is played between the people and not so much as to what's happening on this board. It's about, I'm going to play this on you and mess you up, and this other person's going to do whatever to me, and it just feels more personal, you know? And again, those emotions that come out of it are just fantastic. So that's my number 3. My number 2 was my number 2 last time. This is Neuroshima Hex. Neuroshima Hex is a knife fight in a phone booth. It's my favorite way of describing it. It is a war game that's abstract, kind of. You know, it's this strange creation of a fight, but you don't just, roll dice or play a card and fight. No, you prep the fight slowly, carefully, deploying tiles to the board in order to line up a shot at this guy, and then my opponent goes and they line up a shot at that guy I just set up, and this guy, the new person, is faster, so it's going to shoot this one before this one ever shoots. And you are doing all of these things, no fighting, but at some point someone plays a fight tile, and now it's on. And at that point it's like, and half the board is gone. And your HQ just took a bunch of hits. And then you go back to the building up slowly, carefully, kind of figuring out what you want to do. And so it has a strange rhythm to it. But if you're someone who is not averse to conflict, and you like puzzly games, I mean abstracts, and you like the ideas behind abstract games, not that this game is abstract, but it gives you those same like lining things up and tactically rich choices, you are going to like this game. It's one I originally was not sure I was going to dig, but I adore it, and they keep coming out with expansions for it and new factions, and the post-apocalyptic theme does not hurt because it's one of my favorite settings. The whole thing's fantastic. Love it, love it, love it. Alright, and then my number one has not changed for several years now. What's it been? It's been 8 years? 7 years? Pandemic is my number one. And there's a few reasons why it's my number one. I'll briefly mention those. I already said I like co-op games the best. This is co-op. I like neat settings, and this is a good setting. It's not fantastical, it's not fantasy, I should say, and it's a real world setting, but it's a modern setting. I like that. I like games that give you a lot to do with few rules, and this game I feel does that. I like games that are puzzly. This one definitely is like a big puzzle, both each turn and the whole game's like a huge puzzle. And a lot of people are turned off by that, and I get that. A lot of people say the game does not have a lot of replayability. I don't agree. I think the game has a lot of replayability. I think each puzzle is similar but different, and this is the other game that's one of my most played games. I think this is my number one, with Blue Moon being my number 2 played game ever. Everything in this game just fires for me. I remember the very first time I bought the original version when it came out, the week it came out, and I was hooked and blown away, really, because I had not seen a co-op game like this before. This was not the first co-op, but this was the one that got that wave rolling again. And what better game to get that going, to put me smack dab in the middle of this golden age of gaming with cool settings and cooperative games and all these things, player powers, and it's just this amalgamation of all the things I dig in games. So that's my number one, Pandemic. Thanks everybody for sticking around with me and joining me as I go through these 100 games that I adore. There's many good games out there. Lots of games. I've played many of them. My top 100 is just scratching the surface of all the amazing experiences you can have sitting around a table playing a game. So I hope you have some of those very soon, and share gaming with your friends, share gaming with your family, and thanks again for joining me on my top 100. I will see you real soon. Have a good one.
Z can be a little polemic. He stings like the 8th outbreaking pandemic. Z's got flavor in his top 100 games.
Lights, shower.
Z Garcia, voice of the people. Z Garcia, voice of the people.